This AskReddit user asks, what was the worst physical, emotional pain you've experienced in your life? Just looking at myself in the mirror. Bruh. Don't say that. You're beautiful. I'd probably hump her brains out. Migraines are the worst for me. It feels like a hook is tied to my right eye socket and is trying to pull the front of my skull off the rest of my head. Yep. Been there. Ice packs on the eye and base of skull sometimes help. Letting go of my so. I met my wife when I was 6 years old. At age 49 she told me she didn't love me anymore and wanted to separate. I'm still on the edge of suicide. That is my worst fear. I'm very sorry for the way things turned out for you. My spouse walked out on me 2 years ago with little warning. I'd almost have preferred anger to get me through. Wow, that's just unimaginable. Hold on, brother. We are with you. Best wishes, Red Heart. Kidney stone, physical. Worse than childbirth. Death of my husband, emotional. And yet life continues on. Physical Harrington rod surgery for scoliosis at 17. I have 6-inch rods drilled into my spine and a bone graft from my hip to keep them in place. When I woke up from surgery, I immediately woke up and threw up and split the 18-inch incision open and had to be sedated again to re-glue. Emotional when I told my mom I was raped at 15 at a sleepover by a friend's brother, and my mom told me it was my fault and told me not to mention it again. I'm so sorry this happened to you. Both of them. WTF is wrong with your mom? I'm so sorry. I understand that second part. There is trauma in itself to telling someone close that you were abused and them just brushing it off or trying to hide it. I told my mother about my abuse and she told me to tell no one and allowed my abuser to still be around me. Worst part is I don't even think she knows how much it affected me. IDK This foot pain is pretty tough RN, but I think the worst physical pain is when I fractured my femur, or worst emotional pain is when my ex broke up with me but played all these mind games on me. I know this isn't real pain. But the emotional pain for me was bullying. I grew up in a rural-ish predominantly white small town as an Asian girl and was bullied a lot. My parents didn't care at all. It would be different if I could control or change things. But this was the skin I was born with and the town I grew up in. Pain is pain. And what you went through FG sucked. You are valid. Absolutely real pain to be taken as seriously as physical. And I'm sorry your feelings have been discounted enough times to make you question this. You didn't deserve any of those conditions. And this internet stranger feels for you. I hope you've been able to cope and rise above that hate and abuse because you're worth so much more. Red Heart. I lost my first husband to a rare disease when he was young. And had secondary conditions of pancreatic and shingles over a steady decline of 2.5 years. I thought I was going to lose my mind with grief. My second husband was abusive. Cheated on me constantly. Though I didn't know until the end. Lied to and about me. And left me for a woman who had been pretending that I was her closest female friend. He immediately kicked me out of the home we built together. Threatened to kill me. And then lied about that. 2. The pain of the humiliation I feel from grieving over the loss of 2 absolutely worthless and disgusting human beings is worse than anything I have gone through before. I feel extremely guilty for being more hurt than when I lost my first husband. Knowing all the physical and emotional pain he pushed through to try and beat his disease. I have questioned everything I believed about myself and others. And my trust in everyone is close to nil. The emotional pain has been almost unbearable even now. Worst emotional was seeing my friend take her last breath from a suicide attempt. Physical, probably having tendinitis as a kid. Was supposed to have surgery but my parents were like, he's fine, and didn't even take me out of football. Burning oil on my body wasn't fun for several months. Back pain is also terrible. Ouch. You shouldn't have left it on for so long. When I had my first migraine when I was 12. It was Halloween and I was in so much pain I vomited 11 times and was kinda in and out of consciousness for the rest of the day. Half my face went numb and I ended up being brought to the hospital by ambulance. I can deal well with most kinds of pain, but headaches are a special kinda HL for me. The third time we lost a baby. That third miscarriage. Yes, the physical pain was the same. But my word, the emotional pain. The emotional pain of losing a child for the third time in a row. No, you'll never be able to watch your belly grow. Feel their kicks. See them on the ultrasound. Or even birth and hold them. Love them. Or watch them grow. That pain is something I just hate experiencing. It's the sort of pain where it makes you think, I never want to try for another child again, but you also desperately want to have children at the same time. We're hoping fourth time's a charm. It's sad knowing I have 5. 1 child. Twins. 1 child, 3 miscarriages. Children in heaven that I will never meet until that day comes. Being stung in the top of the foot by a stingray. I went to emergency room for 16 hours and it felt like someone was pushing a red-hot serrated ice pick through my foot. How were you stung? With the stinger. Painfully. So. This is really private, but it's by far the most defining emotional pain I've ever experienced. I was neglected as a child and sexually, mentally abused until I was in my mid-20s. People can overcome that sort of trauma, but my brother, my only living sibling, has chosen to be completely estranged from me because he too was also neglected and sexually, mentally abused by our family of origin, and he thinks I should be close to my abusers, who continue to abuse, and get over the past. I'm practically an orphan because of this, and I'm very much completely estranged from my family and suffering under an undue loneliness. Please be kind. My past is something I'm still trying to come to terms with because I've only been out of their influence for like 6 years. It's been a lonely and hard 6 years. I'm sorry this happened to you. You are so strong, heart exclamation. Thanks so much. I'm moved by the support you show me. I am really touched that sometimes complete strangers can show such empathy because it makes me stronger. I feel much stronger to handle these facts of what I call life. As lonely as you may feel at times, there's always someone out there who's willing to help you whether you know them or not. You matter less than 3. Physical? When I got pepper sprayed as a part of training with it for a class. Almost threw up because my sinuses decided to go into overdrive lol. Emotional? When I had to have my cat down after she probably had a stroke. I was 22 at the time and I'd had her for 16 years. My first love telling me to move on after we broke up. We kept in touch a bit after breakup. I had it in my head we'd get back together eventually. BC, our love was so incredible. I call her late at night and we chatted and I said I think we'll get back together when time is right. She said no and to move on. The desperate feeling of losing her forever hurt so bad. Physical. Pouring 2 cups of just boiled tea in my lap and melting the skin of my male genitals, as well as having to scrub it clean 3 times a day with disinfectant and an abrasive sponge for about a week. Emotional. Toss-up between breaking up with someone after 5 years whom I didn't love anymore, and the pantry shelves giving way in my childhood home where my mom stored decades of preserves, homemade sauces, pickles, jams, etc. They all smashed. And Mum's wails are the worst sounds I have ever heard. DN. Your mum really loved pickles. Impacted tooth. Big FG nerves going straight into your brain. Receiving a phone call in the middle of the night when I was at school on the other side of the country informing me that my dad had just committed suicide. That night and the feeling is burned in my memory forever. I would never wish anyone to have to go through that feeling. And for anyone here who has lost someone this way, trust me that things get better with time. Emotionally. Probably the death of my grandfather. The death of an immediate family member is crippling. Had blood-filled ulcers in my esophagus and stomach which burst and ended up puking blood. Was rather painful. Emotional would be the time my mother told me that my dad was so abusive by the time I was born. That she doesn't remember the first 4-ish years of my life. I was FD up after that for a while. Breaking up with my first love. Didn't realize it would feel like someone died. That's the bit I didn't expect. I read that famous shipwrecked post some time after the fact and realized the process was exactly the same. Emotional. Taking my best friend to the vet and stay with him until he fell asleep for the last time. Although this happened 16 years ago, I still can't talk about it or even think about it without crying. Fissures. Dude. Imagine being terrified to drop a deuce because you know the pain is going to literally cripple you for the rest of the day. I couldn't walk or stand. It was debilitating. Do not get fissures. You can't avoid that either. Must have been awful. It was, and of course everything the doc told me to do made it way worse. Weeks of pain. Finally read some articles online that recommended a liquid diet for a few days and slowly building up to solid foods over a week. Which finally did the trick. No more BM boo-boos. They really are painful, hey. I went through a phase in my teens of crazy dieting, and I would try and force myself to thinking getting food out quickly meant I wouldn't absorb the fat. I was messed up. Anyway. That and yo-yo dieting, binge eating etc. caused bowel issues. So I ended up with a fissure that wouldn't heal and had to have surgery on my ass. They actually re-tear the fissure I think, and yeah, soft diet etc. Was a messed up time. As you say, no more BM boo-boos. Emotional pain. Lots of contenders here, but recency bias says my mom's death would win. I cried every day for 2 weeks. Physical. Getting my IUD inserted. She was like, there's going to be a bit of pressure. But holy st. I never knew it was gonna be like that. That whole day was awful. Had the worst cramps of my life. Vomiting and diarrhea all day. I'm glad I got the IUD. But I really wish I had known how bad it could be. I would have had my fiancé drive me. Gotten some snacks and just dealt with it. The surprise made it worse. I think. Pressure, my ass. I literally screamed fuck at the poor NP doing the insertion. It felt like my uterus was trying to claw its way outside my body. It took months to stop getting what basically felt like flashbacks of the pain. About a year and a half later I had to get it removed because it had started giving me recurring ovarian cysts. Which were very painful in their own way. But nothing compared to the insertion. When I had the Paragard inserted, the clamp slipped off my cervix. That pain was unlike anything I've felt. Luckily the pain had me frozen, or that doc would have gotten my foot to her face. That ST was absolutely horrific. This 1,000 times. Holy FK, those things hurt. Emotionally. When I was 16 I had an argument with my girlfriends, and out of nowhere my guy best friend, who wasn't a part of the fight, sends me a message calling me two-faced, a snake and ABH, and many other things. I remember staring at the screen while struggling to breath. My whole body shaking and my tears running. It was the first time I really felt something breaking in me. My ma'am cooked some lasagna, and me being the pig I am shoveled down my greasy throat as quickly as possible, which ended up with hot cheese and lasagna sauce sticking along the roof of my mouth and giving me blisters the whole way down my mouth. It hurt to eat anything solid for 5 days. The lasagna looked that good? I'm AWE for my ma'am's lasagna. Respect. My crush busted my BS while playing dodgeball in 5th grade. Getting in a motorcycle crash. I also fell off the 3rd floor when I was a kid. Had to get 7 stitches on my head. This is a weird one, but here we go. I had some constipation issues at the time, and I went to the bathroom knowing it would be rough, but I did not know what I was in for. I am telling you, every single part of it was excruciating. Afterwards I just sat against the wall holding myself back from crying. Worst pain I ever felt without a doubt. Painful bowel movements are such a betrayal from our own bodies. Prior to this I also dealt with constipation. But the pain was so bad I thought my appendix was about to burst. We rushed to the hospital and the doctor just told us it was constipation and all I had to do was consume less sugar and more fiber. Bit of a wake-up call honestly. Been healthier ever since. Thanks for watching. Make sure to like and subscribe to the channel for more videos.